Welcome back to the deep dive. We are back at the table, stacks of notes in front of us, coffee brewing, and today we are opening a file on a destination that I think creates more arguments among travelers than almost anywhere else in Asia.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe anywhere else on the planet, to be honest.
It really is polarizing.
Hmm.
You just have to mention this city at a dinner party, and, half the table will say it's their favorite place on Earth, and the other half will just roll their eyes.
They'll call it a dystopian shopping mall or something like that. It's
Yeah.
one of those places with no middle ground.
Exactly. We are talking about Singapore. And the source material we have today is, it's fascinating. It's titled The Lion City Blueprint, a logistics and culture guide. And I have to say, right off the bat, this guide doesn't pull any punches.
No, it really doesn't. And that's what drew me into this research. Usually, travel guides are all white sands and smiling locals.
Right. All sunshine and rainbows.
This one starts with the insults. It lists the things people say about Singapore behind its back. You have the critics who dismiss it as Asia-lite.
I've heard that one so many times. Asia Light. Like it's Diet Asia. Or Asia with training wheels.
Precisely. Or they'll call it a sterile air-conditioned bubble that just happens to have a humidity problem, which is not entirely wrong, but we'll get to that.
And the classic one, the one everyone knows.
The fine city.
Which is a pun, right? It's a double meaning.
It is. It's a perfect double entendre. It's a fine city, as in it's nice, it's clean, but it's also a city where you get fined for everything. Breathing wrong, chewing gum, jaywalking. The reputation is that just existing costs you money.
Right. This idea that it's this authoritarian theme park where spontaneity goes to die.
Yeah.
But then, and this is the first big contradiction the guide throws at us, you look at the reality on the ground, and those insults, they don't seem to match the facts.
Not at all. I mean, the guide makes a huge point of this. Where else on earth can you eat a Michelin-starred meal, literally recognized by the snobbiest food critics in France, for $4 US?
While wearing flip-flops?
While wearing flip-flops and a sweaty t-shirt. That contradiction is it's wild. You have this reputation for being sterile and expensive, but the reality on the ground is this incredible democratization of excellence.
And visually, it's just as jarring. The guide describes standing on a single street corner, I think it mentions Tel Air, and just doing a 360-degree turn.
Yeah, and you can see a Buddhist temple, a massive Hindu Gopuram with all those colorful statues, and a Muslim mosque, all practically sharing a wall.
That's not something you see in many so-called sterile cities.
No, it's not. And that's really the tension we're exploring today. The mission of this deep dive is to answer that big question. Is it worth it? Because we have to address the elephant in the room immediately.
The cost.
The cost. It is the most expensive city in Southeast Asia by a massive, massive margin. I mean, if you are backpacking through Vietnam or Thailand, spending $30 a day,
And feeling like a king.
feeling like royalty, then you land in Singapore and it feels like a physical blow to your wallet.
So the question is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the Lion City actually worth that premium price tag?
And the source material highlights a central tension that I think frames this whole discussion perfectly. It argues that Singapore is the world's greatest logistics hub. Everything works, everything is on time, but it might be a terrible destination if you're addicted to spontaneity.
Efficiency versus serendipity. That is the battleground.
Exactly. We're going to move beyond what the guide calls the Instagram trinity, and you know exactly the photos everyone takes.
Oh, I know them by heart. Number 1, the infinity pool at Marina Bay Sands.
Holding a cocktail, looking over the city, check.
Number 2, the super trees at Gardens by the Bay, all lit up at night.
Looking like you're on the set of Avatar, check.
And number 3, the giant waterfall inside the airport.
The jewel, yes. Everyone has seen those photos. We want to get past that Disneyland layer and find what the source calls the organized grit.
Organized grid.
Uh-huh.
Love that phrase. It sounds like a complete oxymoron.
It is, and that's why it's perfect for Singapore. So let's unpack this. Let's start with that Disneyland myth, because if you just open up social media, Singapore looks like a sci-fi movie set.
It looks like Star Trek.
Yeah.
Or a city from 200 years in the future.
It does, and that's the surface layer the source talks about. Marina Bay Sands, Gardens by the Bay, Jewel Changi Airport. The source is very clear. These things are real, they aren't fake, but they represent the most expensive and honestly the least authentic slice of the country.
So if your whole trip is just those 3 spots, if you just go there, snap your selfie and leave, You haven't really seen the country.
You've seen the lobby, you haven't entered the building. You'll leave thinking Singapore is just a wealthy, sterile garden for rich expats and tourists. But the reality is so much more interesting. You have to understand the demographics.
Tiny, right. Geographic.
It's tiny. It's smaller than New York City. But inside that tiny footprint, you have this pressure cooker of cultures.
And the source makes a really important distinction here that I wanted to drill into. It's about how we describe multicultural cities.
Right. People often use the term melting pot. We use it in America all the time.
The idea being that everyone blends together into one new thing.
Exactly. A melting pot implies you throw everything in, turn up the heat, and it becomes a soup. A smooth, blended, sort of gray goo consistency. The expert take on Singapore from this guide is that it is not a melting pot. It is a mosaic.
I like that image a lot more.
Think about a mosaic. The tiles are pressed right up against each other. They're touching, but the blue tile stays blue and the red tile stays red. They don't bleed into each other. They retain their own identity.
So in Singapore, you have these three dominant cultures.
Chinese, Malay, and Indian. And because the island is so small, these cultures are physically pressed together, but they remain remarkably distinct.
The source mentions the sensory shift when you move between neighborhoods. Is it really that abrupt?
It is instantaneous. It's almost shocking. The guide describes walking from Chinatown to Little India. In Chinatown, the air smells like roasting pork and incense from the temples. The colors are red and gold. The signage is in Mandarin characters. It's bustling in a very specific Chinese way.
Okay, I can picture that.
Then you cross a few streets, literally a 5-minute walk, and you are in Little India.
And the vibe flips.
Completely. Suddenly, the air smells of jasmine flowers and heavy curry spices from the Tekka market. The architecture changes to these vibrant pastels. The music pumping out of the shops changes to Bollywood hits. The language on the street shifts to Tamil. It's not a blend, it's a juxtaposition. 1 minute you're here, the next you're there.
And what about the Malay culture?
Same thing. You go to Kampong Glam, near the Sultan Mosque, the whole atmosphere changes again. You smell perfumes from the Arab street shops. You see people selling traditional textiles. You hear the call to prayer. It's another distinct tile in the mosaic.
So that label, Asialite, the idea that it's not real Asia, it's that fair? Because what you're describing sounds pretty real to me.
It's a half-truth. And half-truths are dangerous because they're believable. The light part comes from the ease of access. And this is a huge plus for travelers who might be a bit nervous or are first-timers to the region.
English being the main language is a big one.
It's huge. English is the first language of business and education. So you don't need a translator app to order coffee or ask for directions. You can navigate the entire country in English.
And you can drink the tap water.
You can drink the tap water, which, let's be honest, is a rarity in Southeast Asia. Usually, drinking the tap water is a guaranteed trip to the hospital.
Or at least an uncomfortable few days.
Exactly. Here, it's perfectly safe. Everything functions. The trains run on time to the second. The streets are clean. So in that sense, it is light. It's beginner mode for Asia. But the source argues that easy doesn't mean shallow.
Right.
The cultural depth, the festivals, the belief in spirits and ghosts, the history of the food recipes passed down through generations is just as deep as anywhere in Vietnam or Indonesia. You just have to be willing to leave the marina area to find it.
You have to step out of the air conditioning and get into the heat.
You do. And that brings us to the arrival experience itself. Because if we are talking about logistics, we have to talk about Changi Airport. The source calls it the best arrival on Earth. That is a bold claim.
I see that here in the notes, the best arrival on Earth. Is that just marketing hype? Or does the guide actually back that up?
No, they back it up with specifics. I mean, think about your typical airport experience, let's say. JFK or Heathrow or Charles de Gaulle. What comes to mind?
Stress, noise, fluorescent lights that make you feel sick, people yelling, hard linoleum floors that echo, long lines.
Exactly. It's a cattle call. Changi is designed to be the complete psychological opposite of that. First of all, and this is such a small detail, but it changes everything, it has carpets.
Carpets in an airport terminal.
Yes, wall-to-wall carpets in the gate areas and terminals.
That sounds like a cleaning nightmare, but I guess it changes the sound.
It dampens everything. It absorbs sound. You don't hear the clack, clack, clack of thousands of roller bags. It makes the terminal quiet. It feels like a hotel lobby, not a transit hub.
And it's not just quiet, it has attractions.
It has a butterfly garden with a waterfall inside it. It has a free movie theater. It has kinetic art sculptures that move with the air. It's designed to lower your stress levels from the moment you step off the plane.
But what about the actual process? The immigration? The bags?
That's the most impressive part, the efficiency. The source notes a specific timeline. You can be off the plane, through the automated immigration gates, grabbing your bag, which is usually already on the carousel, and sitting in a taxi in 20 minutes.
20 minutes. It takes me 20 minutes just to taxi to the gate sometimes. That's unbelievable.
It sets a tone, doesn't it? It's the country's handshake. It tells you, we value efficiency. We value your time. We have our act together.
It creates this sense of hyper-efficiency. You feel like you've arrived in the future.
You do. You're floating on this cloud of perfect, seamless efficiency, and then you step outside the automatic doors to the curb.
And you hit the wall.
The physical reality check. The source describes it as a solid wall of humidity. It's not just that it's hot, it's that the air itself feels thick and wet.
You have to remember the geography. Singapore is 1 degree north of the equator. Just 1 degree.
I think people forget how close that is. That's basically on the line. It's not tropical in the way Florida is. It's equatorial.
So seasons basically don't exist.
No.
Yep.
There is no cooling off in the evening. There's no winter, no spring, no autumn. The guide says there are only 2 seasons, hot and hotter with rain. It is humid 365 days a year. And the guide emphasizes that this isn't just uncomfortable. It fundamentally changes how you have to travel.
Right, because I'm the kind of traveler who loves the Parisian walk.
You know what I mean?
You start at the museum, walk to the cafe, walk to the park, maybe walk across town to dinner. I can easily do 20,000 steps without really stopping.
And if you try that in Singapore between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., you will fail. You will be miserable.
Why? Is it just the sweat? I can handle sweat.
It's not just sweat. It's the wet bulb effect. The air is so saturated with moisture that your sweat doesn't evaporate. It can't, so it just pools. Your body can't cool itself down. You overheat very, very quickly.
So it's actually a physical limitation.
It is. It is physically impossible to do the Parisian walk comfortably. The source suggests a very specific strategy, and it sounds a bit dramatic, but it's true. You have to hide.
Hide, like a vampire from the sun.
Basically, you have to structure your day like a local. You explore the outdoor stuff, the temples, the parks, the neighborhoods in the early morning from like 7:00 to 10:00 a.m. Then, when the sun hits its peak, you retreat.
Into the air conditioning.
Into the glorious freezing air conditioning. You go to a museum, you go to a mall, you go to your hotel for a nap and a shower, you hide in the AC, and then you come back out at night around 5 or 6 p.m. when it's still hot, but the sun isn't beating down on you.
So the weather dictates the itinerary. You can't fight the sun?
You will lose every time. And that initial arrival, that drive from the hyper-efficient airport into the city, contributes to that Truman Show vibe the source mentions.
The Truman Show. I saw that reference.
Yeah.
Like it's a movie set.
Yes. And it's an uncanny feeling. Imagine you're in the taxi, you look out the window, the trees lining the highway are perfectly manicured. And I don't mean just trimmed, I mean they are all the exact same height, planted at equal intervals for miles.
That's a bit strange.
It gets weirder. There is absolutely no trash, not a wrapper, not a cigarette butt, nothing. The streets are perfectly lined up. The grass is perfectly green. It feels almost too perfect.
So you start to wonder, is this real?
Exactly. You start to wonder, do real people live here? Or are these just actors pretending to have a society? It's a weird feeling for a vacation. It puts you on edge a little bit.
But that's where the organized grit comes in.
That's the antidote. That feeling of artificiality evaporates the moment you step into a hawker center.
Okay, let's talk about these. Because the guide treats hawker centers like they are holy ground.
They are. They're the soul of the city. For anyone who doesn't know, these are basically open-air food courts. They aren't air-conditioned. They are usually covered but open on the sides.
And the moment you walk in, the Truman Show vibe vanishes.
Completely. You're sitting on a plastic stool that might be a little wobbly. It's loud. It's hot. There's an uncle shouting orders in Hokkien.
Hokkien, that's a Chinese dialect, right?
Yes, it's a Chinese dialect common in Southeast Asia, very distinct from Mandarin. It sounds punchy, rhythmic. You hear the clanging of woks. You smell the charcoal smoke from the satay grills. It's gritty. It feels real.
But, and this is the organized part of organized grit.
It's hygienic. Each stall has a letter grade from the health department, A, B, C, posted right on the front. It's inspected, it's safe, you can eat anywhere without worrying. That combination of real chaotic energy and underlying order, that is the real heartbeat of the city.
And that leads us perfectly into the economics of this trip. Because you mentioned earlier, this is a place where dreams die if you look at your bank account wrong.
We need to talk about what the source calls the Singapore paradox. This is crucial for anyone planning a trip. It outlines a very strange financial conflict that you don't find in many other cities.
What's the rule? What's the paradox?
The rule is this: accommodation is your budget killer. Food is your budget savior.
So you get hurt on the room, but you save on the dinner.
Exactly. You can sleep in a mediocre cramped room that costs you $200 a night, and then walk down the street and eat the absolute best meal of your life. I'm talking flavors that would cost $100 in London or New York for $5. It makes no sense, but that's how it works.
Let's break down those accommodation tiers, because the source calls this the dreams die section. That sounds ominous.
It's a reality check. If you are a backpacker or someone...
A pod, like a space pod.
A capsule. You are sleeping in a plastic tube or a small boxed-off bunk in a room with 20 other people. There is no floor space. You can't swing a cat, as the saying goes. You can barely open your suitcase without hitting someone else's leg.
So privacy is non-existent at the $60 price point.
Absolutely not. It is purely functional sleep storage. You are a package being stored for the night.
Okay, that sounds rough.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm a grown-up. I want my own room. I bump my budget up. What does the mid-band look like?
This is where most people land, and this is where the biggest disappointment happens, according to the source. We are talking $150 to $250 USD a night.
For that price, I'm expecting a decent 3-star hotel. Clean, comfortable.
And you'll get that. Maybe an ibis or a boutique hotel in a renovated shop house. But here's the warning from the source, and it's in bold text in the guide. Beware of windowless rooms.
Wait, back up. Windowless? For $200 US a night?
Yes.
How is that even legal? I'm staring at a wall for that price.
It's completely legal and very common. Because of the density of the city and the way old shock houses are structured, they are long and narrow. Many of the rooms in the middle of the building literally have no access to an external wall. So they build perfectly nice rooms with TVs and showers, but no windows.
That sounds incredibly claustrophobic. I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even know if it's day or night.
It is. If you suffer from claustrophobia or if you just, need sunlight to function, you have to be obsessive about checking the fine print when you book. Don't assume a window is included. In Singapore, a window is a luxury amenity.
That is wild. And I assume the high band is just astronomical.
The sky is the limit. The famous Raffles Hotel, Marina Bay Sands, you're looking at $600 to $1,500 a night and up. It's world-class luxury. The service is impeccable, but you are paying a mortgage payment for a weekend.
So the hotel situation is painful, it hurts, but then we have the food economy to save us.
The savior. The great equalizer. The hawker centers are where the magic happens. You see millionaires in suits sitting on plastic stools next to construction workers, eating the exact same $5 plate of chicken rice.
The guide mentions a few famous ones. Maxwell Food Center.
Old Airport Road, which is a bit further out but considered one of the best by locals, and Lau Pa Sat.
Lau Pa Sat is the famous one, right? The beautiful Victorian building.
Yes, it's right in the middle of the financial district, completely surrounded by glass skyscrapers. It's a surreal sight. And at night, they shut down the street outside and set up dozens of satay grills. The smoke is everywhere. It's an incredible atmosphere.
And the prices are consistently low.
$4 to $8 per meal. And the quality is off the charts. The source mentions Hawker Chan. This is a stall that sells soy sauce chicken rice. It famously got a Michelin star a few years ago.
A Michelin star for a street stall? That's almost unheard of.
It was a huge deal, and you can still eat there for about $4 or $5.
That is mind-blowing. You're eating world-class food for pocket change.
But, and there is always a but, in Singapore, just as you start feeling good about your food savings, the source introduces the sin tax.
Uh-oh. I don't like the sound of that.
This is the silent budget killer, the thing that will wreck your finances if you're not paying attention. And it's alcohol.
I thought you were going to say something worse.
For your wallet, this is the worst. The government uses price as a tool to control vices. So let's say you want a beer after a long, hot day of walking. You go to a 7-Eleven, just a convenience store. A single can of beer can cost you $8 to $10 US.
For a 7-Eleven beer, that's stadium pricing. That's insane.
It is. Now let's say you go to a bar, a pint of beer. You're looking at $15 to $20, a basic cocktail at a nice rooftop place. You are starting at $25.
So if I go out and have, say, 3 drinks with dinner.
You've spent $75. You've spent more on 3 drinks than you did on food for 3 days.
Wow. I might have to become a teetotaler for this trip.
It's not a bad idea, honestly. The source explicitly says, a drinker's budget must be double that of a non-drinker. It's a mechanism to control public behavior. They don't want drunk people stumbling around their perfect streets, so they make it prohibitively expensive to get drunk.
That's effective social engineering.
Yeah.
So putting this all together, the source gives us these daily budget bands.
Right. And this is really practical. Let's look at the scraper. This is the bare minimum. You are sleeping in a pod, you are eating strictly hawker food, taking the bus, and only doing free sites like walking around. You are still looking at $80 a day.
That's a very expensive bare minimum for Asia. In Vietnam, the scraper budget is like $25.
Exactly. It's a different planet. Then you have the standard. This is most of us. A 3-star hotel, maybe it's windowless, a mix of hawker food, and maybe a nice cafe for coffee, one big paid attraction like the cloud forest, maybe one beer. That's $200 a day per person.
And the baller.
Nice hotel, cocktails, taxis everywhere, fine dining. You're at $500 plus per day, easily.
So money is a major factor. You have to plan for it. But let's talk about logistics beyond just money. Because even if you have the budget, the source says there are traps that people fall into that can ruin a trip.
Right. There are 3 main traps. Trap number 1 is the geography trap.
This goes back to where you stay.
Yes. People look at the map online, they see the prices, they see a hotel in Geylang or somewhere in the north of the island, and it's $40 cheaper than the one in Chinatown.
And they think, great, I'll save money. It's a small island. I'll just commute.
A terrible move. The mistake is assuming you can walk or that the transit runs all night. The MRT, the train system is amazing, but it shuts down around midnight. And as we've established, you cannot walk 45 minutes back to your hotel in the equatorial heat. It's not happening.
So you're stuck.
You end up taking a taxi, and the taxi fare, especially with late-night surcharges, completely wipes out that $40 savings instantly. So you've saved nothing and you've wasted time.
Plus, doesn't Geylang have a reputation?
It does. It's the official red light district.
Yeah.
It's perfectly safe. It's not dangerous, but it might not be the vibe you want for your family trip.
So what's the fix for the geography trap?
The source's advice is strict. Stay central. Chinatown, Bugis, Clark Quay. Pay the extra money up front for the location. It buys you time, sanity, and the ability to pop back to your room for a shower in the middle of the day when you feel like you're melting. That alone is worth the price.
Trap number 2.
The spontaneity trap. This goes back to our intro. People try to wing it. They show up to the cloud forest at Gardens by the Bay or the Art Science Museum on a Saturday afternoon thinking they can just buy a ticket at the door.
What happens?
It's sold out. Or the line is 2 hours long. And standing in line in Singapore, humidity is not a vacation. It's a form of punishment.
So much for efficiency.
The fix is simple, but it requires planning. Book your major tickets 48 hours in advance. Use apps like Klook or just the official websites. Secure the time slot. You cannot be casual about the big ticket items. This is not a city for winging it.
And the third trap is one I think a lot of our listeners are genuinely worried about. The fine city paranoia.
This is the biggest psychological trap. People read the internet and they get terrified. They think Singapore is a police state where drones are watching you to see if you drop a candy wrapper.
I have to admit, I've read the horror stories. I picture getting caned because I dropped a piece of paper by accident. Is the guide saying that's all a myth?
It's not a myth that the laws exist, but the enforcement is widely misunderstood, especially for tourists. Here is the reality check from the source. Let's take the famous gum law. You cannot import chewing gum to sell. You can't bring in crates of it to start a black market gum business.
But what if I just have a pack of gum in my bag for the flight?
Nobody cares. If you have a pack of Orbit in your pocket for personal use, nobody is going to stop you. The police aren't stopping tourists and searching their pockets for mints.
So it's about intent?
It's about intent and scale. The source puts it this way. The distinction is between law and enforcement. The laws are there to set a very high standard of public behavior, but the enforcement is pragmatic. However, the source draws a very hard line on one thing. Drug laws are real.
That's the scary part. That's the one everyone warns you about.
That is the part you take 100% seriously. The death penalty for drug trafficking is not a myth. It is active law. Do not mess with drugs in Singapore. Do not bring anything in. Do not consume anything. That is the hard line. But for normal tourist behavior, spitting, jaywalking, just don't be a slob, don't litter, flush the public toilet.
Wait, can you actually get fined for not flushing the toilet?
Technically, the law exists, but again, are there toilet police hiding in the stalls? No. It's about creating a culture of social pressure. If you act like a civilized human being, you will have zero issues. The fear is largely exaggerated by people who haven't been there.
While we are on logistics, What about connectivity? In a place this high-tech they call themselves a smart nation, I assume getting online is easy.
Incredibly easy. You don't need to hunt for Wi-Fi. The source recommends eSIMs like Airalo or Holofly. You just download the app before you go, pay $10, and your phone works the second you land. Or you can just buy a tourist SIM card at Changi Airport arrivals. It's something like $10 for 100 gigabytes of data.
100 gigabytes. That's basically unlimited for a short trip.
Basically, you can stream 4K video all day and not run out. Connectivity is fast everywhere. You will never be offline unless you want to be.
Let's shift gears to safety and comfort. Because you mentioned the fine city reputation, but on the flip side of that coin, that strictness creates a level of safety that is almost hard for people from other countries to believe.
It really is. Violent crime against tourists is virtually non-existent in Singapore. It is statistically one of the safest places on the planet. The source mentions that you could leave your wallet on a park bench, come back an hour later, and there's a good chance it's still there.
And that leads to the famous example of the chopping phenomenon. I love this story.
This is a fascinating sociological experiment you can witness every day. Choping is the local habit of reserving a table at a crowded hawker center. You walk in, it's packed, you find an empty table, and you put a packet of tissues on it.
Just a cheap little packet of Kleenex. That's the reservation.
Just tissues. Or an umbrella. Or your work lanyard. The source even mentions people leaving unattended iPhones or laptops on the table to save their spot while they go order food from different stalls.
Wait, people leave their iPhones just sitting there on the table
Yes.
in a crowded food court,
Yes.
and nobody seals it.
Nobody touches it. That packet of tissues or that phone is a legally binding contract in the social fabric of Singapore. It says, this table is mine, and everyone respects it.
That is wild. If I did that in London or New York, the phone would be gone before you even turned around.
You wouldn't have a phone when you came back. But in Singapore, it works. It speaks to an incredibly high-trust society.
But what if a tourist doesn't know the rule? What if I just move the tissues and sit down?
You won't get arrested, but you will get the stare. The source mentions that social pressure in Singapore is stronger than the police. An auntie will come over and shame you. The social violation is a bigger deal than the legal one.
Okay, so respect the tissues. Got it. But are there actual scams?
Yeah.
Or is it a total paradise?
It's mostly safe, but there are scams, and the source lists two main ones to watch out for. First, airport taxes. Sometimes you'll be approached by a guy in the arrivals hall, not at the official stand offering a flat rate ride to the city.
Cheap ride, no waiting. That old trick.
Exactly. Ignore them. It's always a ripoff. Go to the official taxi queue or use the Grab app. Grab is the Uber of Southeast Asia, and it's reliable and fairly priced.
And the second scam, this one sounds more serious.
The seafood pricing trap. This usually happens at Boat Quay, which is the very touristy strip of restaurants by the river.
I can guess where this is going.
You walk by a restaurant, you see a tank of massive, beautiful crabs, the Sri Lankan mud crabs. They look delicious. The menu says seasonal price or lists the price per 100 grams.
Price per 100 drink. That's the trick right there.
That's the red flag. You're tired, you're hungry, you say, I'll have the chili crab. You order the crab, you eat the crab, it's delicious. Then the bill comes and it's $800.
$800.
Yeah.
For one crab.
Yes. Because that crab weighed 2.5 kilos and the seasonal price was astronomical. And you legally owe the money. You ate it. There's no way out.
That is a vacation-ruining bill. That's more than the flight.
It is. The fix is simple, but you have to do it. Always, always ask for the total price of the specific crab before they cook it. Make them weigh it in front of you and tell you the final price. Don't be shy. Ask how much is this crab. If they won't give you a clear answer, walk away.
Great advice. Let's talk about demographics. Is Singapore friendly to everyone?
Generally, yes. It's very welcoming. For women, the source describes it as incredibly safe. Walking alone at 3 a.m. is generally fine. Catcalling is virtually non-existent. The respect for personal space is very high.
That's a huge plus for solo female travelers.
For mobility people with wheelchairs or families with strollers, it is an accessibility paradise. Because it's a modern city built largely in the last 50 years, there are ramps, elevators, and wide sidewalks everywhere. It's miles ahead of most Asian cities where sidewalks are often crumbling or used for parking motorbikes.
And for LGBTQ plus travelers.
This is where it gets complicated. The source notes that gay sex was recently decriminalized, which is a big step forward. There is a vibrant gay scene, particularly around Neil Road, lots of bars and clubs, but the public values of the society are still quite conservative.
So what's the advice from the guide?
Be yourself, enjoy the scene, but keep public displays of affection low-key, regardless of your orientation, really. It's a don't ask, don't tell kind of vibe in public spaces. You won't be harassed, but you might get stares if you are overly affectionate in a family-centric mall.
Got it. Now let's get to the soul of the trip. The source material highlights some best moments and some disappointments. I think this is really helpful for setting expectations.
I agree. Let's start with the highs. The source's cultural high is a morning in Cheongbaru.
Cheongbaru is that hipster neighborhood, right, with the cool coffee shops.
It is now, but it has deep roots. It's an Art Deco neighborhood from the 1930s. Low-rise, curved white buildings with beautiful lines. But the experience the guide recommends isn't the cafes. It's going there at 7 a.m., going to the wet market.
For those who haven't been to one, what is a wet market?
It's a traditional market where locals buy their fresh meat, produce, fish. It's called wet because they are constantly washing the floors with water to keep it clean. It smells like raw food and life. You watch the daily rhythm of the aunties bargaining for fish. It's real.
And after the market.
You go upstairs to the food court above the market, and you eat chui ku. It's these little steamed rice cakes topped with preserved radish and chili. It costs about $2.
And you're just sitting there.
You're sitting there on a plastic stool, eating with a plastic spoon, watching the fan spin overhead, and you're talking to an old uncle at the next table about the neighborhood's history. The source mentions learning that the area used to be a graveyard. That connection, quiet, local, cheap, historical, that is the best moment. That's the mosaic.
It contrasts so sharply with the logistical high the source mentions.
This appeals to the control freak in all of us. The experience of crossing the entire country on the MRT in 40 minutes. You tap your credit card, no need to buy a ticket, just use your Visa. The AC is freezing cold, the train is on time to the second, and the ride costs $1.50.
It's seamless.
It's the sheer joy of a system that actually works perfectly. You don't have to think. And then there is the luxury high. If you want to splurge, the source points to Atlas Bar.
Describe that for us.
It's in this building called Parkview Square, which locals call the Gotham Building because it looks like something out of Batman. You walk in, and the bar looks like the set of The Great Gatsby. Massive ceilings, Art Deco details, gold everywhere, and a 3-story tower of gin in the middle of the room.
A gin tower.
A literal tower. Thousands of bottles. You order a martini, and you feel like you were in the roaring 20s. It's expensive, yes, but it feels like you are paying for art and atmosphere, not just alcohol.
Okay, so those are the wins. What about the losses? Which should we skip?
The source is absolutely brutal about Sentosa Island.
Sentosa is the resort island off the south coast. It has the beaches, Universal Studios.
The source calls it a manufactured resort, and my favorite quote, a bad version of Florida.
Ouch. That's harsh.
It's harsh, but probably fair from a cultural perspective. If you have kids, fine. You might need to go there to keep them entertained at Universal. But if you are a culture seeker, it is a trap. It's artificial, expensive, and lacks the soul of the main island. The beaches are man-made. The sand is imported. It feels fake.
And the other disappointment.
Merlion Park. Specifically, trying to get that photo of the statue spitting water into your mouth.
The iconic photo, everyone has to get it right.
The reality is you are fighting 5,000 selfie sticks. It's crowded, it's hot, and everyone is pushing to get the same cheesy photo. It's stressful. The advice from the guide is simple. Go at sunrise when nobody is there, or just skip it. You can see the statue perfectly from across the bay. You don't need to stand right under it.
Fair enough. So let's look at alternatives. Maybe after hearing all this, the costs, the humidity, the rules, the listeners thinking, you know what, maybe not for me. Where should they go instead?
If you want that incredible food culture, that mix of Chinese, Malay, and Indian, but you want it to feel gritty, authentic, and old school, the source strongly recommends Penang, Malaysia.
Specifically, the city of Georgetown.
Yes. Georgetown is described as looking like what Singapore looked like 50 years ago. Heritage shop houses with peeling paint, incredible street art, amazing street food everywhere, but at half the price or less. It's messier, but it has more romance in the traditional sense.
And if you want the big city energy, but with more of an edge.
Hong Kong. If you want faster, louder, more dramatic geography with mountains crashing down to the harbor, Hong Kong is the answer. It has more edge. The source says Singapore is polite, Hong Kong is brash.
But if you were set on Singapore, how do you fit it into a bigger trip?
The city and sand combo is a winner. 3 days in Singapore for the urban luxury and food, then a short 2-hour flight to Bali for 4 days of beach, temples, and relaxation. It's the perfect balance of high-energy city and chill island.
Or the overland route.
The Peninsula Run. This is a classic backpacking route. You land in Singapore for 3 days. You take a bus to Malacca, which is a UNESCO heritage city in Malaysia, for 2 days. Then you take the train or bus up to Kuala Lumpur for another 3 days. You get to see the progression of culture and history up the peninsula. It's a great journey.
I love that idea.
Hmm.
So we've arrived at the final verdict, the is it worth it matrix. Let's break it down by traveler type.
This is the bottom line, the key takeaway.
For the backpacker on a shoestring budget,
Verdict. NO. The source is very clear on this, unless it is just a 48-hour layover. The accommodation costs completely destroy the value proposition. If you are on a tight budget, your money goes so much further in Vietnam, Thailand, or Indonesia, you will just be stressed about money the whole time in Singapore. You'll be eating bread in your pod instead of enjoying the food.
for the mid-range couple.
Verdict. Yes. But with a condition. You have to go in with the right mindset. You have to view the hotel just as a place to sleep. Don't splurge on the room. Focus your budget on the food and experiences. It's very easy, comfortable, and romantic in a modern, clean way trip.
For the family with kids.
Verdict. Absolute yes. The source is emphatic on this. It is probably the best destination in Asia for families. It's safe, it's hygienic, the sidewalks work for strollers. There are tons of dedicated kids attractions. You don't have to worry about your kids drinking the water or getting sick from the food. It takes all the stress out of parenting abroad.
And finally, for the luxury traveler.
Verdict. Yes. No question. If you have the money, the service levels are world-class, the hotels are iconic, the fine dining is superb, you will be pampered.
So the overall takeaway from the guide.
Singapore is the perfect soft landing for Asia. If you're nervous about the chaos and grit of the regions, start here. Acclimate here. Eat everything. It's Asia with guardrails.
But the strategy is key.
Crucial. Bring a credit card. Go hungry. And don't stay more than 4 days. The source says it's a sprint, not a marathon. See the highlights, eat the food, and then move on.
And that brings us to the end. The source leaves us with a final provocative thought that I want to leave with you, the listener.
It does. It mentions that Singapore creates this profound sense of safety, almost like the Truman Show we talked about earlier. Everything is perfect. But it raises the question, is the trade-off for a perfect, safe, efficient society the loss of genuine spontaneity?
Does organized grit actually count as grit? Or is it just a simulation of it, perfectly curated for consumption?
Is the trade-off for ultimate comfort the loss of true adventure? That's the question.
Something to think about while you're eating that $4 Michelin-starred chicken. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the Lion City.
Safe travel.